So, alongside a new set that I will get to later, Warrior Cats released a reprint set of several popular first art characters all bundled together, but these aren't just prints of the same designs, these are completely new minis. There's Firestar and Scourge, Firestar having previously been packaged with Leafstar, while Scourge is with Squirrelflight. Brightheart and Yellowfang, with Brightheart having originally been packaged with Cinderpelt and Yellowfang with Leafpool. And Ravenpaw and Greystripe, Ravenpaw having been originally packaged with Sandstorm, and Greystripe having been originally packaged with Jayfeather the First. These came pretty quickly, and their overall quality is pretty high. Not many manufacturing errors that I can find, pretty average seams, and no massively noticeable coloring errors anywhere. Scourge has a new scar that he's not supposed to have on mine, and Brightheart has a little black dot on her eye. By the looks of it, while I'm recording actually, she also has a little black dot above one of her scars on her front leg. There are a few things that they all have in common. All of them are in the side pose, if their original figure was in the front pose, and vice versa. All of them also have a very similar facial shape, with a very noticeable face bubble where their muzzle starts, as opposed to earlier figures having smoother transition to the muzzle. It gives all of them a bit of a strange same face situation, actually. The unfortunate truth, all of the reprinted cats are British, in that they have British short hair muzzles instead of normal cat muzzles. I'm sorry you guys had to find out this way. But to be honest, Yellowfang was probably already a Persian, so that's not too far off. So first up is Firestar's reprint, or more specifically Rusty, as he has his collar on. The designs, at least from the front, are almost identical sans the collar. The kangaroo is intact, and so is the facial hair. Although it seems the kangaroo might have lost some weight between Firestar and Rusty. That said, the first and most obvious difference is that the stripes and the fur are much duller and a less obvious fire color. This is a pretty big downgrade in my opinion, as not only do the new colors look worse together overall than the fiery orange and red did, they also seem to fit the character much less. Additionally, the figure's profile and side view is much more flat-faced, which is going to be true of almost all of these, except for Yellowfang for some reason. It's kind of a pattern with these figures, which is a shame. Additionally, this is probably just me, but I prefer the fully outlined eyes to the eyes just having the big corners. Design-wise, the other big difference is the back stripes, which are very detailed on Firestar, but completely different on Rusty as they line up on the seam. I can't really fault them for this. It's reasonable that anything that lands on the seam is going to be a little weird. Overall, if this is a contest, the original design is definitely winning between the Firestars. Now onto Scourge. While the reprint of Firestar is a second Rusty edition, the reprint of Scourge and every other character is just another Scourge. The most obvious difference between these guys is color. The old Scourge is a darker black color, while the new Scourge is lighter and blue tinted. Additionally, the collar's color has changed. In the original, it's already kind of a wine that's in between red and purple, but on the new one it's skewed even further to the purple, so it's just even more in between. I think this is charming. I like that he doesn't quite have a red collar and doesn't quite have a purple collar in either of these. That said, I could try anything, but my camera is never going to pick up the original's kind of reddish-purple collar. My new Scourge is the only figure I got that has like a physical dent in it, which is a line on its cheek. The second thing you might notice about the new Scourge is face shape. The old Scourge has a more triangular face, while the new one has rounder baby cheeks. This illusion probably has a lot to do with the bubble muzzle shape. From a profile or above head view, the muzzle is also much flatter. The nose is much flatter. If you look at the new Scourge from the side, it's kind of hard to tell he has a muzzle, especially compared to the original one. The color of the eye corners is also pretty different, with the new figure having lighter corners than the old one. This isn't exactly a good change, as I think that they should pretty much always be a darker color than the fur around them. It just looks better as they're functionally eyelashes for the figures. That said, a lot of what was cuts on the old figure is just shaped on the new one, and I think that this is a huge positive change, as we don't need cuts to see the shape of the figure. The little paws, fluff, and tail are all plenty noticeable the way they are, and the most unnecessary cuts on the old one, the ones on the back of the ears, are not present on the new figure, which is very nice. The biggest improvement between these two, though, is the bigger, more obvious teeth on the new figure's collar. They look cooler, and they bring a lot more focus to the fact that this is Scourge, especially from different angles, where on the other figure, you could easily look at it from above and not really be able to tell what you're looking at, but on the new one, from almost every direction, you can see, oh, that's Scourge, immediately. Overall, if you can overlook a slightly less appealing muzzle on the new guy, this figure is a lot cooler than the old one. So next up we have Brighthearts. The original Brightheart has one of the cutest muzzles and noses out of all the figures, with the foxy little triangle shape. So it's a bit of a shame to see it flattened into this British short hair look. Otherwise though, the new Brightheart actually has a huge advantage over the old one. It can sit. The old Brightheart is the figure out of all of them that is the worst at sitting. It will stay upright, but it will fall over at the slightest incline. The new one has a bigger base overall, and can even be slightly pushed without falling. Most of the front-sitting figures are better at sitting than the side-sitting figures are, just overall. I think it's because their base is more evened out. The colors are about identical. I can't really see a difference anywhere. Design-wise, the original side-sitting Brightheart has a scar on her left elbow that the new one doesn't have, but the new figure's stripe cuts, especially on the back of the head, is completely the same as the old one, as if copy-pasted between them. The scar and closed eye on the scarred side of her face are also highly improved, as they used to have kind of a trailing blank area at the end, and now that is gone. And this might just be a quality difference, but the cuts, the rough cuts on my old Brightheart figure are very, very bad looking compared to the nice, small, clean ones on the new Brightheart. So I give the new Brightheart a rating of, this is a little uglier, but it's a lot better? Next up, Yellowfang. From what I can tell between these two Yellowfangs, almost all of the colors are exactly the same. The two big design differences are that on the new Yellowfang, seemingly accidentally, it has no scars on her back or side. And the new Yellowfang scars are on top of, instead of under, the Squidward nose lines, which is a huge improvement. It's actually a little weird that this new Yellowfang is still colored black, though. If they were going to reprint these guys with either slightly more accurate or designs that they would rather them have, you would imagine that Yellowfang would be the first one that they make gray instead of black, seeing as the rest of these guys were, mostly accurate otherwise. Especially when her plush toy is gray. They had a chance to fix her coloration issue and they said no. Overall, the shape of this Yellowfang's face is better than the old ones. The cuts are shallower and that helps a lot, and the nose actually sticks out slightly more on the new Yellowfang than on the old one, making it more readable. The new Yellowfang also doesn't have as much chin deformation or as many unnecessary cuts outlining the tail and legs, and altogether looks a lot more professional. And also, just like Brightheart, it's better at sitting. So altogether, the new Yellowfang is just much better. Too bad about the back scars, but they're not really terribly important anyways. This Yellowfang is a better Yellowfang. The last set is Ravenpaw and Graystripe. Unfortunately, the new Ravenpaw doesn't have that snake. I understand why it would be removed. This is a different Ravenpaw, and the snake was likely the most breakable piece any of these minis have, especially judging by long tails like printed in cat collar. And the fact I've seen dozens of pictures from kids posting their minis where Ravenpaw's snake is mysteriously absent. But the snake is really, really cute. Lucky for us, though, the new Ravenpaw still has little fangs anyway. After addressing the snake, the most immediate difference is that Ravenpaw is actually black instead of the older figure's dark gray. This is a step towards a more accurate figure, which is nice. That said, the old one's face, so much cuter. The pug squish is not doing any of the cute triangular muzzle figures any favors. Ravenpaw before and after he hits a wall. Like the others, there are less weird cuts on the ears, legs, and paws, making him look a lot more professionally done, despite his face. His seam is also not bleeding, with the tuft of his tail being totally white, unlike Ravenpaw 1. Overall, though, the original is just a much stronger figure. With not only the much cuter face, but also the snake. The snake does a lot. That said, even if the face does get squished, I think Ravenpaw is one of the better figures. He's immediately identifiable, doesn't have anything extra or unnecessary going on, he just looks good. And last we have Graystripe. Graystripe may be the only one that actually looks cuter with the new facial shape than he did before, as compared to the others. His downwards facing muzzle actually gives the illusion of a cat's cheeks instead of just a strange bump. And you know that weird, long mustache pattern that the old Gray Stripe has? Putting that over the strange bump makes the strange bump actually look like part of the cat's face. And while this would be a very large mouth, proportional to the rest of the cat's features, it actually looks like it's supposed to be there like this. It is only because Gray Stripe's mouth looks unbelievably massive that the British Shorthair bump is working. Gray Stripe has been changed color-wise as well. While his base color is about the same, both his counter shading and his stripe have been given less contrast. I think this looks good on him, and it returns focus to his stripe instead of you looking, everywhere. The lighter eye rims are more pleasant too, but I do wish they circled the whole eye like on the original figure. He's also, again, better at sitting. Another thing about the old Gray Stripe is that it looks like his nose has actually been pushed in, and this new one fixes that by having it actually stick out. I will note that his red nose looks a little bit strange now, but this is just an early set weirdness in my opinion. So overall, I'd say that is a better Gray Stripe. Going forward with these, if they were to, say, print a Series 2 set for some reason, I would hope that they keep the face molds pretty intact, and not add, this bump to more of them. Looking at the cats from the last set, they also have more pronounced and obvious facial bumps instead of natural muzzles, which I seem to have overlooked due to my rage at the Squidward noses. So my advice to the mini designer is cut that out, give them smoother transitions like the original Ravenpaw, Brightheart, Cinderpelt, and Squirrelflight have, because it's cuter. That said, if these bubble mouths absolutely have to stay, I would just say make the mouths bigger then. Make it actually look like this is their entire mouth and not just a bump that their mouth is sitting on. Taking a quick, spoilery peek at the Shadow Sight mini that came out, the mouth actually going all the way across the bump makes this Shadow Sight really cute. But on the other figures where it's just a bump and the mouth is sitting on top of it, it doesn't look as cute. I'm talking very specifically about the harsh transition to the bubbly circle that's coming out of the mini. This is especially obvious when comparing the two Ravenpaw figures, where the original Ravenpaw has a very cute small mouth that happens at at the end of a rounded triangle shape. But the new Ravenpaw immediately bumps out into a new circle, and it's very, very clear that he's got kind of like a Homer Simpson thing going on, as opposed to a cat thing. Otherwise, this set is fine, and they're moving in the right direction by not focusing so much on adding a bunch of extra cuts everywhere. I was almost convinced in the past that they needed those cuts for some sort of manufacturing reason, but I look at, say, the shapes on the new Scourge, and I think, yeah, that's all he needs. I can see where his legs are, where his tail is. I don't need a line to show me that. The old Scourge didn't need it, because he was already cat-shaped. If you showed me both of them, assuming they were near identical design-wise, I would assume that the old Scourge was a cheaper product. My least favorite of these is probably the Extinguished Firestar, and my favorite, Yellow Fang, just for the fact that she's nothing but an improvement on the old one. Overall, these are fine. If you don't mind the muzzles and missing out on that cool snake, then they're largely just an okay replacement. I'll be back with the new wave soon, but I don't want to squeeze these guys into that. And yeah, I know, I predicted this one last time. You guys don't need to tell me. But if they want to make a habit of making small edits to cats and then reprinting them, Ashfur's right there. Put some spots on the front, make him short hair, give him darker eyes. Perfect. Or a version of Ivy Pool where all of these peaches and pinks are kind of consolidated. That would be great. A Cinderheart that's sitting, too. A sitting Cinderheart. Another good idea from me. Another good idea from me.